From the outside, Japan presents a near utopia, a nation of cutting-edge technology, world-renowned culture, minimal crime, and a thriving global economy. As the third largest economy in the world, Japan boasts international brands, high standards of living, and one of the healthiest populations globally. But beneath this polished surface lies a darker reality. A generation sidelined by economic misfortune, rigid social structures, and systemic inflexibility. These individuals, known as the lost generation, are emblematic of Japan's broader struggles, both economic and demographic. Their plight threatens not only Japan's future, but also serves as a cautionary tale for other nations navigating the complexities of modern economies. The economic miracle and its fragile foundations. Japan's post-war recovery, often referred to as the Japanese miracle, is one of history's most remarkable economic transformations. From the ashes of World War II, Japan emerged as a global industrial and technological powerhouse. By the 1960s, its economy was growing at an annual rate of nearly 10%. At the heart of this success was a uniquely Japanese model. Keiretsu, powerful corporate alliances supported by the government. These conglomerates, such as Mitsubishi and Sumitomo, operated with mutual stock holdings and close ties to banks, allowing them to access unlimited credit for expansion. The government further bolstered growth by shielding domestic industries from foreign competition and directing public investment into infrastructure and innovation. This symbiotic relationship between government and industry propelled Japan to the forefront of global markets. Japanese cars, electronics, and machinery dominated shelves worldwide, earning the nation the nickname "economic tiger." By the 1980s, Japan was the second largest economy in the world, trailing only the United States. Its rapid growth sparked international admiration and anxiety. Articles in American newspapers warned of an economic Pearl Harbor, fueled by fears that Japan might overtake the US economically. Hollywood fed this narrative with dystopian films like Blade Runner, depicting Japanese corporations as dominant global forces. For ordinary Japanese citizens, the era promised stability. Graduates were virtually guaranteed lifetime employment, shushin-koyo, if they entered the workforce at the right time. Job security, rising wages, and the prospect of home ownership were within reach for most people. But this seemingly unshakable system had a fatal flaw: its dependence on perpetual growth. The bubble burst, Japan's fall from grace. The seeds of Japan's economic downturn were sown during its period of prosperity. Throughout the 1980s, speculative investments in real estate and stocks created a massive economic bubble. Property values skyrocketed. At its peak, the grounds of Tokyo's Imperial Palace were reportedly worth more than the entire state of California. Meanwhile, the Bank of Japan kept interest rates low and issued loans indiscriminately, fueling reckless investments. By 1990, this unsustainable growth reached its breaking point. The stock market plummeted by 43% within a year, and real estate prices collapsed. Companies that had thrived on easy credit found themselves drowning in debt. The aftermath revealed widespread corruption, from insider trading to fraudulent accounting. Worse, many corporations survived only by becoming zombie companies, reliant on perpetual government bailouts to avoid bankruptcy. The bubble's collapse marked the beginning of Japan's lost decades, a prolonged period of economic stagnation. While other nations experienced recessions and rebounded, Japan remained stuck in low growth and deflation. Its economy, once hailed as a model, became a cautionary tale. The lost generation, a tragedy of timing. Among the hardest hit by the economic collapse was the generation that came of age during the 1990s. At the time, Japan's rigid hiring system revolved around shushoku katsudo, a structured job hunting process for university graduates. companies would hire fresh graduates en masse during a short recruitment season, offering them lifetime employment. Those who missed this window found it nearly impossible to secure stable, well-paying jobs later. After the bubble burst, companies froze hiring to protect existing employees, leaving many graduates unable to secure their first job. These individuals, now in their 30s, 40s and 50s, are known as the lost generation. Lacking career opportunities, they were forced into low-paying temporary jobs or left unemployed altogether. For many, this precarious start led to lifelong instability. Without financial security, members of the lost generation struggled to buy homes, marry, or start families. As years turned into decades, their prospects dimmed further, with societal stigma making reintegration into the workforce nearly impossible. Ripple effects on society and economy. The implications of the lost generation's plight extend far beyond individual hardships. Economically, their absence from stable, high-earning jobs weakens consumer spending and stifles growth. Middle-aged workers typically drive economies through their spending on homes, vehicles, and family-related expenses. But in Japan, a significant portion of this demographic remains financially constrained, living paycheck to paycheck or relying on parental support. Demographically, the lost generation struggles contribute to Japan's declining birth rate, exacerbating the nation's super-aging crisis. With nearly 30% of its population over the age of 65, Japan holds the dubious distinction of being the world's oldest society. Projections suggest that by 2050, there will be nearly as many elderly citizens as individuals of working age, placing immense strain on pension systems and healthcare services. Adding to these challenges is the rise of hikikomori. These socially withdrawn individuals, often men from the lost generation, retreat into their parents' homes, avoiding work, social interaction, and even leaving the house. Estimates place the number of hikikomori at nearly 1 million, though the true figure may be higher. Their isolation represents not just personal despair, but also a broader societal failure to accommodate those who struggle within Japan's rigid structures. Recent developments, signs of change. Recognizing the severity of these issues, the Japanese government has launched various initiatives to address the lost generation's challenges. Programs offering job training, counseling, and subsidies aim to reintroduce them to the workforce. For example, the Employment Ice Age Generation Support Program, launched in 2020, seeks to help individuals aged 35, 55 secure stable jobs. However, progress has been slow, with systemic barriers such as rigid corporate hierarchies and long working hours discouraging many from re-entering the workforce. On a societal level, attitudes toward work are beginning to shift. Younger generations increasingly reject the grueling demands of traditional Japanese corporate culture, seeking greater work-life balance. Remote work, freelancing, and entrepreneurship have gained popularity. These trends, while promising, have yet to fully dismantle the entrenched norms that exclude those who fall outside the system. Efforts to combat the hikikomori phenomenon have also emerged. Some local governments offer support programs combining therapy, vocational training, and community engagement. Yet, the stigma surrounding mental health and social withdrawal remains a significant obstacle to widespread change. Lessons for the world, a global cautionary tale. Japan's experience holds valuable lessons for other nations grappling with economic and social challenges. As automation and globalization reshape job markets, many countries risk creating their own lost generations. Rigid systems, like Japan's lifetime employment model, struggle to adapt to changing economic realities, leaving vulnerable populations behind. Countries facing similar demographic trends, such as South Korea and parts of Europe, should pay close attention to Japan's struggles with aging populations and declining birth rates. Policies that promote adaptability, inclusivity, and workforce reintegration will be critical to avoiding similar crises. Japan's story is one of resilience, innovation, and transformation, but also of vulnerability and stagnation. The lost generation's plight highlights the dangers of rigid systems unable to adapt to unforeseen crises. For Japan to secure its future, it must embrace systemic reforms, breaking down barriers in the job market, supporting social reintegration, and addressing the demographic challenges of an aging society. The clock is ticking. As Japan stands at a crossroads, its response to these challenges will not only shape its future, but also provide a blueprint or a warning for the rest of the world.